What's going on, everybody? My name is Derek. Welcome to my channel. We're also on Facebook at our Facebook group, and we have a Patreon page if you want to help support. All the links are in the description area. So I wanted to do a video where I kind of tell a story. Some of my videos are pet peeves or more vlog type or what have you, but I also wanted to tell stories and just experiences that I've had in my life, because you guys have let me know that you're interested. You are very kind in your compliments about my voice and my storytelling. So I want to talk about something that is a big part of my life and ties in with what you do know about me, being a musician, and that I moved to the South, and that I lived in Nashville. At least I feel like you do, because my mother's been talking about me a lot. For anyone watching this that has no idea why I referenced my mom, go check her channel out. It's Darlene Mishu, and if you don't know her and you don't know where my channel started, it's because of her, and 99% of my audience that I talk to is because of her. So, so I want to talk about my move to Nashville. Not only why, but how. The how is the interesting part. But I don't want to, it could take me hours to tell this story. So I'm going to do my best to get to the point, get through it, and not take an hour to do it. But there are a lot of moments and points to it. The true genesis of it, at least the idea, started, I think it was definitely in 2005, and I think it was the summertime of 2005. Now, this involves a close friend of mine that I ended up moving with, and I will use his first name. His name is Paul. But again, I don't want to get too personal with other people's names, but his name is Paul. A very close friend of mine to this day. By this time, he and I hooked up and started playing in bands together. There was a publication in Maine called Face Magazine, and it was about the local scene, art, music, local businesses, everything Portland, Maine, really. And the website was called facemag.com, and it was a lot like Craigslist, where if you're a musician, you can go in there and try to find bands that are looking for a musician, or you're a band looking for a guitar player to hire. So both ways. So I was on there poking around, and I found this guy that was looking for a bass player. His name was Paul, and we ended up hooking up, started playing together here and there in bands, and we became buddies real quick. And it wasn't long before we were like, hey, man, you know what? Screw this place. We need to move to Nashville. Because Nashville is always that place, right? If you're a musician, you go where the music's at, right? If you're a potato farmer, you're not going to go to New York City. So there's places of the country that are more tailor-made for certain industries and what it is that you're wanting to do in your life. So obviously we're musicians, so you got New York City, I guess, has a music scene, a lot of recording studios and labels. LA, that's obvious. But Nashville, especially now, Nashville is the place to go. That's the number one choice now. But back in 05, it was too, but it was the whole other story there is how much Nashville has changed. But in 05, it was still like, man, Nashville's where to go. I don't want to live in LA. I don't want to live in New York. I would love to live in Nashville. Now, mind you, neither one of us had ever been there. I'd never been there. I'd never been to Tennessee. But it was one of those things where you're like, yeah, man, someday we're going to do that. Let's do it. And then it never happens. And then we talk more about it. Man, we got to do it. Yeah, we're doing it. And it never happened. So what's important to talk about at this point is my radio job. I've done a video on my time as a mascot. But real quick, I have to touch on the last phase of my radio career, which was a commercial producer. I worked in the sound engineering world where I was making commercials for the radio station group. So 6 radio stations. and it was the official title was called. I was the assistant production manager, and it was fun. I landed in a spot where I was doing really what I like to do, which was work with audio. But between politics and radio, and you don't make any money in radio, and you're overworked, so you just feel like it's not worth your time. And again, there's a lot of politics in radio. Any office space has it, but radio's a different beast. And it turned into a very negative situation for me, and I let it be negative for too long, and it was starting to show. And I became probably a pain in the ass to some of the managers because I didn't like how things were going, and I let them know it. And some of the people that I had to work with on a linear level were also knowing my frustrations. So it turned to a point where I got fired. My radio career ended by getting fired. And that could be another whole story there. But this happened in September 2005. And it was devastating. It was devastating because I was so close to a lot of the people in that building. It was 10 years off and on that I had a relationship with everyone in that radio station. Some have gone, some had gone by then. Some were fairly new to me at the back end of my radio career, but there were also some that were there from day one to the day that I got fired. And they were actually part of the people that fired me. It hasn't happened. Like down the road, there's a good story to it where I made amends with everybody and everything was cool. But I got walked out. They walked my ass out, put it that way. So here I am like, man, what are you going to do now? And I still had a second job, which comes into play here. At this time, I was working mornings at a small mattress firm place locally in Portland, Maine. Very mom and pop place where we actually would cut the fabric and do some of the sewing, but the big, like, I don't know what they're called, but it was a job. That's all it was. And then I'd go to the radio station and work part-time there. So I am just like, man, just defeated. What am I going to do with my life now? You know? So I'm at the other job, cutting fabric, and there was a supervisor in there also by the name of Derek. And he's like, man, what's the matter? Clearly I looked bummed out. I'm like, man, I told him what's up. And he's like, damn. He's like, I was like, man, you're a musician, right? I'm like, yeah. And he knew that. I think he even come out to Portland to see me play once. I'm like, yeah, you know that. He's like, yeah. He's like, why don't you move to Nashville? He had no idea that I had thoughts about it. I never shared that with him. He didn't know how much my brain was spinning on making the move. Because what I should have mentioned is by this time, my brain can't let go of the move to Nashville as something that I would love to do, but terrified to do it. Completely like no confidence in it. You're crazy. That's a crazy idea. But it was burning in my brain. So then I hear that from my supervisor. Man, you're a musician, right? Just move to Nashville. Yeah, why not? And it was like a lightning bolt struck my body. And that's when everything changed. My life, that was one of those pivotal moments. And we have many throughout our lifetime. You have these massive bullet points through your life that you can look back on and be like, that was a pivotal moment that changed my trajectory, just put me down a different path because of this one person that nonchalantly said, move to Nashville, without him knowing how much I was thinking about it. So I was like, whoa, this is the first thing I did. I literally went to the phone, called up U-Haul, and scheduled an appointment to get a tow hitch put onto my truck. At the time I was driving a Durango, and to, secure a rental of a 6x12 trailer. Done. 2 weeks. I was getting a tow package put on my truck, and we'll get in a U-Haul trailer. So right there without really not saying anything to anybody, I solidified that I'm moving to Nashville in 2 weeks. But point being, period. In 2 weeks, I'm going to have a U-Haul trailer stuck to my truck. What am I going to do with it? Move to Nashville. And then I had to put everything else together behind that. Before planning, I got the trailer. And that's going to be a common thread through this is the do before planning. So then I hang up, call Paul. Paul, we're moving in 2 weeks. You in? I already got the tow hitch scheduled to get put on my truck, and when that is done, I'm leaving there with a trailer. We're leaving in 2 weeks. Are you in? He said, whoa. I'm like, I'm doing this. So are you in? I'm going. Do you want to go with me? Yes, I do. So he agrees. And the next 2 weeks were very difficult. What are you doing? Because when I made that phone call and within seconds of hearing that from my supervisor that I should move to Nashville, it turned into a manic moment. I'm completely aware of that. Like I went into a mania and was like really making irrational and emotional decisions. Very much so. And I can attest to that. And even at the time, I kind of knew what I was doing. So when things calmed down and cooled off, I was like, what are you doing? Are you really moving to Nashville? This is terrifying. You don't know what to do. So you haven't told your family yet? No one knows this except for my buddy Paul. So I'm like, all right, well, I pick a day to finally tell my family. As you know, most of you know my mom, and you know her mom, my grandmother. You guys know all about those stories. So, again, this is 2005. I decide, at this time, I'm living in Windham, Maine. If anyone is listening or watching, that's from Maine. Windham is where I was living at this point. So I go to Sanford to see my mom and grandmother. And I'm going there to tell them I'm moving to Nashville. This is not an easy drive to there. I'm nervous. I'm still riddled with self-doubt, but I'm doing it. I'm just do it. Get into it. So I get to the house, I walk in, say hi to mom, and then I go into the addition to the house where my grandmother lives. And I walk in, and before I can say hello, and I always go and give her a kiss. You know, hi, Meme. How are you? Before I can do that, she's like, oh my God, Derek, I had the worst dream about you. I'm like, okay, what happened? She's like, you told us you were moving to Nashville, and it made me so sad, and I cried, and I was going to miss you. I'm telling you, as on my child's life, that is exactly what happened. And I didn't know what to do with that. I was like, this is very spooky. This is weird. That she kind of already knew why I was there. She had a dream about it the night before. Here I am going to tell him I'm moving to Nashville, and then she comes out with this. I'm like, oh, okay. Give her a kiss. Love you. And I got to get out of the house. I go out of the house, and I think I start washing my car or something. I was like, okay, I got to think through that. I got to process what just happened there. And then, Mom, if you're watching, I don't know if you remember this, but you came out, my mother came out, and she's like, what's going on? Something on your mind? I guess I was just showing it. Obviously, you know, a parent knows their child. So she knew that something was going on. I was like, Mom, I came here to tell you I'm moving to Nashville. And Meme just told me about this dream she had that I was coming here to tell everyone I was moving to Nashville. And she was like, I had a feeling you were going to come here. I could have a feeling you had something to say. And I said it. And she's like, okay. I honestly don't remember the next conversations. I really don't. I think I went in and did tell Meme, look, it's weird that you said that, but that's actually why I am here. So that was like very magical moment for me. Just like when my supervisor just nonchalantly said, "Hey, move to Nashville." So now it's getting crunch time. It's time to move. Um, I'm packing up the trailer. I'm taking just necessities. My buddy Paul meets me in Wyndham. He's packing stuff up. We go to his family's house. We're just taking whatever we can. And the time has come. It's time to go. Um, and our final leaving point is in Wyndham, who I was living with my cousin Ronnie at the time. And it was like, love you, man. We're out of here, and it was just a strange, strange deal. By this time, I'd already said bye to my mom and met my grandmother and Ronnie's parents. Um, so this was the last goodbye, if you will. And Paul's girlfriend was there too, which was also like amazing that my buddy decided he would go with me, even though his girlfriend was living in Maine. But it was quickly decided that at some point she was going to follow. So, so that wasn't that big of a deal. There was no breakup needed to do it. But she was there with us when we finally finished packing and we started heading down the road. Now, I bring that part up because 10 minutes in, I get a phone call and she's like, "Did you forget something?" She's like, "This black, like, zip book, like an office book that has a zipper on it. It's like, I think you forgot something." So I pulled over. She catches up to us. She gives it to me. It was like my office. It had all my paperwork in there and had traveler's checks. All my money at the time, I put everything into traveler's checks. So in essence, I forgot all of my money. That's just a funny part. So we all had a good laugh about that one. And then off we go. And so did the journey. And it wasn't until we crossed through Boston and I can't remember the route. I think we went through New York. I can't remember. But I remember there was a point where now I felt like we're entering a land I've never been in before. It was different. I was like, okay, now this is the furthest I've ever driven from home. And it started feeling weird. I never got homesick. To this day, I've never been homesick. But it was definitely different. And especially when we hit the first night we stayed in Scranton, Pennsylvania. That was our first stop. Um, and which was beautiful ish. It was cool. It was different. But it was the second day of driving that was the most amazing drive. We went from Scranton, Pennsylvania to Knoxville, Tennessee. And anyone that's done the trip down Interstate 81, which is south, which takes you through Bristol and all this stuff, you go right through the mountains. It's amazing. It's beautiful. I think you go through Maryland, you go through West Virginia, and it's gorgeous, especially for us at the time. Now we're in a different world. This is all new. It's exciting, scary, invigorating. It's a amount of emotions that I can't explain. And here we go. Now, what I forgot to mention is the planning part. Much like I didn't plan until I secured a trailer and a hitch. That was like step number one. And then next step was packing the trailer and figuring out the day to leave. But we skipped a very important step, and that is a place to live. Didn't do anything about that. And maybe a place to work? Nope. We had neither of those things figured out when we made our way to I-95 and started heading south. No plans. We left with no place to live. So it blows my mind that we did that. It's absolutely crazy. And if Paul, you're watching, I know I know you feel the same way. We talk about it all the time. It always comes back up. Like, can you believe we did that. Unbelievable. And yeah, it's stupid. It really is, but we did it. So goes the journey. There's so many little funny moments on the drive, but the one that sticks out is we are somewhere in Virginia. And by this time, I was like, why? I could tell that when I was changing lanes, that the traffic behind me was, I don't know, I can't explain it. It was like the cars behind me didn't know what I was doing. And I kept saying, why are they, like I'm trying to go right and they're going right. And when I try to change to the left turn, they're going to the left lane. I'm like, what is going on? I have no idea. So we pull off the highway. We're on, I guess, a state road or county road or whatever, and we're rolling up to a red light, and then we're going to take a left into a Wendy's. So as soon as we get to the red light, we're just crawling to a stop. This lady sheriff on a motorcycle zips right to the passenger window. Right there. It startles us. She knocks on the window. We're like, okay. We roll the window down. And I'm not going to pretend that I'm not going to try to do a fake Southern accent, but in a very thick Southern accent, she proceeds to tell us in a very friendly way, very Southernly friendly way, was, I think your blinkers are crossed on your trailer. I noticed when you were changing lanes to the left, your right blinker was on and vice versa. You might want to check that out. And just drives off. Like, what? So we pull into where we were going to go in, and sure enough, we test the blinkers. So Paul goes in the back. I'm like, all right, I'm turning my left blinker on. Boom. He's like, dude, the right blinker is blinking. I was like, how is that possible? And typically the connection from trailer to vehicle for the blinkers, you can only do it one way. So you get 3 small prongs and a big prong. So there's no way to reverse it. It can only be one way, but this one wasn't. It was just like 4 standard prongs and holes. So you could put it in this way and you could flip it around and put it in that way. And I think what happened was before I left with the trailer, the guy checking was like, all right, hit a blinker. Like, he didn't tell me hit left or right. I just hit a blinker. So let's say I did left. All he knows is he sees a blinker working. All right, next one. So I flip to the next direction, and he sees the other blinker working. All is good. But we didn't realize we were on different pages. My left was his right, and my right was his left. So we drove from Windham, Maine, all the way to somewhere in Virginia with the blinkers crossed in the trailer. So we were just another shake your head moment. Like, are you serious? How did we not die or get in some kind of accident? So we fix it. And then then we stay in Knoxville, and then the next day we leave early, and we know that we're going to be in Nashville soon. So for perspective, we left on October 5th. So then October 6th, we made it to Scranton, Pennsylvania. October 6th. God, I think these dates are right. I thought I'd never forget these dates. But the middle day was all driving from Scranton to Knoxville. And then that third day was Knoxville to Nashville. And it was like, all right, we're going to get there today. This third day, we're going to be rolling into Nashville. Well, as we're making this final stretch, I can tell my truck isn't running right. Something is wrong with it. It's hard for me to keep up speed. And it's starting to make a noise in the back, like a whining noise. And I'm like, oh, this ain't good. And they were starting to have some shifting problems. Paul's like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know what it is either. Let's just keep going. And it got worse and worse and worse to the point where we were that truck or that situation where you find someone with their hazards on in the all the way right lane going really slow. And that was us. Like the fastest I could go was like 45 miles an hour. And it was this high end, just whistling sound in the back of the truck. I'm like, I don't know what that is, but this is not good. But we finally get to Nashville. We see the Broadway exit. We're like, we're here. We pull off. It puts us on Broadway. And I forget what the name of the gas station was at that point. It's still there. Let's say it was a Tiger Market. I think it was. And we pull in, park, turn the truck off. Now what? Well, what are we going to do now? We're here. Now we have no more plan. This is as far as the plan went, was go to Nashville. Now what? My truck is busted up. We have no place to live. And I know this sounds like a movie. I know this sounds like some drama, like stereotypical. Oh, we made a journey and we broke down and we had all these different things. It sounds like a standard story, but it's all true. We limped into Nashville with no place to live. So I went into the gas station and bought an apartment guide. I guess they still have them out there. Now you can go online and search for apartments, but it was just a magazine for the local apartment complexes in Nashville, and there's plenty of them. Here I am, book on hood of truck, flipping through pages. Found one, called, got an answering machine. All right, next. Second one, I don't know why I chose this one. I don't know. There's no rates in there. Maybe the picture looked nice. I think the name of the complex was Country Woods. But I decided to call this one. This is the second thing I like. All right, cool. I'm going to call them. We get someone on the phone. Tell them what's up. Hey, we just moved to town. We're looking for a place to live. Come on down. Fill out an application. So I get the location, and it ends up being like 20 minutes away from downtown. If anyone lives in Nashville that's watching this, it was in the Nippers Corner area, just north of Brentwood, or just northeast of Brentwood, still Nashville, but also near Antioch, that area. Bell Road, Old Hickory, Nolensville. So anyone that lives in Nashville knows that area. So we get there, again, limping. The truck is somehow surviving. It's getting us to where we need to be. We get there. Now, mind you, we pull up. Obviously, U-Haul trailer. We're moving in. We're moving, but we have no jobs. So when we walk into the office and start filling out applications, we're like, yeah, we just moved here. We don't have any jobs. They're like, okay, sure, whatever. And we fill out the applications. We give it back. I think we paid for the fee. Like, all right, we'll let you know. Now what? Okay, we've taken the next step. We are potentially going to have a place to live, but we still don't know. So by this time, we're so stressed and tired. We're like, let's just go find a hotel room. We found a hotel room just up the street. But we're in the back of our minds like, if we even do get this apartment, how long is it going to be before we can move in? Are we going to live in a hotel for the next week? What are we going to do? We have no place to put our stuff. So I'm going to have to keep paying for a U-Haul trailer. Again, stresses that we didn't have to put on ourselves. This is all happening because we left without a plan. But again, magically the next day, yep, you're approved. You can move in today. And we thought it was amazing then, but only all these years later, having moved into apartment complexes, have I never had a 24-hour turnaround. It's always been 2 weeks before you get approved, and it's always all these hoops you have to jump through in order to get your damn apartment. Nope, not this place. The next day, we just moved in, and what was hilarious, it's early October, and their pool was still open. And here we are, two pasty white Yankees from Maine swimming in October. For us, it was still hot enough to swim, but no one down there was swimming in October. But we were. The That's the apartment pool, that is. So anyways, so we move in, we empty our trailer out. I go return the trailer, and then it's time to take care of the truck. Like, what's going on with the truck? So I bring the truck in, and I blew the rear end in it. By this time, if anyone watching this knew exactly what I was describing, that's what it was. The rear end differential. I'm not a car person. I don't know how to better explain that, but it's what makes the back wheels turn, and it was toasted. I had it was something that needed to be fixed, and it was expensive to fix, and I had a credit card to fix it. So that was a bummer. But I got it taken care of. So right out of the gate, I'm having to spend money I don't have on my truck. We didn't move with a couch. We each brought our bed. We each had our beds, but we didn't bring any kind of couch. And I think because we were so exhausted, it's really mentally and emotionally, when we finally got an apartment, we didn't do shit for a week. And again, if Paul's watching, he's going to be laughing really hard right now. But for the next week, we don't leave the apartment. And we're sitting on the floor eating pizza, like a bunch of buddies do, binge watching The Sopranos show. By this time, this last season was already done. He ended up having the entire show's seasons in a nice CD box set or DVD box set. That's all we did. From the minute we woke up to whenever we just crashed out, we just sat there like two idiots watching Sopranos, terrified, I guess, too, of just like, what are we going to do? So then at some point, I finally was like, all right, there's an Applebee's up the street. Let's fill out some applications, wait tables. So he went with me. Again, another magical thing. We meet the manager, we fill out applications, and hires us on the spot. Again, I've worked at plenty of places, and I've tried in other moments of my life trying to get a job serving tables. And it's either we don't need you or you apply. Okay, we'll get back to you. You know, typical interview, and you don't know what's going to happen. No, this Applebee's, Nippers Corner, Bell Road, and Edmonton, I think, hired us on the spot. Can you start tomorrow? Absolutely. So looking back on this, it's crazy, but it's also crazy how things worked out. We get an apartment in 24 hours. We get a job in 24 hours. Just nuts. So the next day, here we are waiting tables at an Applebee's. And I'm not the kind of person to wait tables. I'm not a people person. But somehow, I became a people person in Nashville with a very thick Yankee accent in the South. So I stood out in a big way. So then I can tap this at the end here, but the way this ends can lead up to the next story as to how I became a full-time musician. But shortly, just a few weeks after working at Applebee's, I can tell Paul's not digging it. I wasn't either, but Paul's not the type to wait tables either. And I was driving up Nolensville Street. I can't remember why, but I saw a music store called Nashville Used Music. I was like, sure. I'm sure Paul could work there. He used to give lessons. He worked in music shops before we moved. I mean, that was what he did. So I popped in, got an application for him, bring it to him. And he's like, thanks. He ended up getting a job there, and over the last, I guess now over 10 years, through time, he ended up back there. Now he's like one of the managers there. Same place called Nashville Used Music. There was a big gap of time where he didn't work there is what I'm trying to say. So he starts working there. I stay at Applebee's. And then that's when we start the story just turns into us just trying to find our way and trying to figure it out. And the way it ends, this video is going to end, will tie into another story. Because what happened was the band leaders that I would end up playing for, which was the band called, at the time, Buck Wild, but the singer was Danica. And we played casinos full time. And I did that for 4.5 years. It was 6 months into Nashville, I became a full-time musician, which is also just a crazy story. That does not happen. I got very lucky, and a lot of circumstance and coincidence those are all ingredients to being a successful musician. You can be as talented as you want, but you need luck and circumstance and right place, right time. And this is an example of right place, right time, but it wasn't me in the right place and right time. It was Paul. Because Paul's in the guitar store working, and this couple walks in, and Paul's like, "Hey, can I help you?" And they're like, "We're actually looking for your pinup section, where it's like a corkboard with tacks, and it's just ads for bands or business cards." But then there's always, in music stores, there's that section where it's musicians looking for bands or bands looking for musicians. That's very typical. And they were like, we need to look at your community board. Okay, Paul says, "What are you looking for?" "Oh, we're looking for a bass player for our band." And Paul's like, "I know a bass player. I just moved to Nashville with him. His name's Derek. Here's his phone number." And a week later, I was auditioning for that band, and I think 3 weeks after that, we were on the road. I ended up getting a gig, but that's another video. So there's so many things too that I probably forgot to talk about, but really that is the journey from the minute I decided we're actually moving to Nashville to finally getting on our feet, having a place to live, and having jobs. So I hope you enjoyed it. That's why this video is definitely a little longer. But I'd love to hear your comments. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. Those could be other videos to talk about. But again, Facebook group, Derek Mishu. And then we have a Patreon page if you want to help support. All links in descriptions. Thanks as always, guys, and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye.